No, that's how you roll. So again, hey, my name is Eddie Garcia. It's a pleasure to speak in front of you today. One of the things that I will say that makes me who I am, it's important for people to know who the leadership is and what they're made of. I was born in on the island of Puerto Rico in San Juan. I moved to San Jose actually directly when I was a young boy, probably about 5 years old. Learned how to speak English here. Went to school at St. Victor's School over on off of Piedmont Hills. So I'm part of this community. I've been part of this community for a very long time. I really, and we'll find out later as I go through this, that I really dedicate my life and everything else to this police department and this community. I bleed San Jose blue. I'll go into this later on, but I'll never be wearing another patch on my arm again. This is the only place I've arrived. It's the only place I ever want to work at. And when it's my time to retire, I'm going to go off and be a high school teacher and a football coach somewhere. A lot of the things that we do in the police department, a lot of things that we're made of, quite frankly. And just tell you a little bit about myself. I was raised by relatively a single mom. My dad left one day when I was 12 years old and never came back, and my mom raised me on her own. And so everything I do, I really do for, I was told the day that I got my promotion and my 4 stars at City Council, I looked up my mom and I told her that these stars were hers as well. And so, we've been through some difficult times, some rough times, but one of the things that I truly believe is we are what we make of what we get. And so I don't have excuses, neither of us to this day, my mom and I don't have excuses of what happens. We've got to pick ourselves up and make the most of it. And I have to thank that this city, this country, for helping my dream come true. I will tell you this, anybody baseball fans out there? You remember the World Baseball Classic this year? All right, well, the World Baseball Classic, they get together every 2 years. The countries play against each other. Puerto Rico had its own team, the United States had its own team, and they met in the final of the World Baseball Classic. And it was interesting to me because people were telling me, who are you rooting for? Who are you rooting for? And I go, well, don't worry about it. I win either way. I win either way, regardless of what happens. So, today I want to talk to you for a little bit, and I'll try to make it as quickly as possible so you can ask some questions, just really at the state of the department where we're at. As you know and as you've seen, our main issue has been with staffing. And, that's what we struggled with, and that's what we're trying to rise up from. To give you a historical perspective, in 2009, our authorized staffing levels for the department were about 1377. In 2010, that staffing reduced to about 1271. And then from 2011 to present, our authorized staffing levels for this city are 1109, 1,109 officers. That's roughly the same as our authorized staffing levels were in 1986. And the city's grown over 40%. To give you some comps, cities with approximately 1,100 officers. El Paso, Texas has 1,128. They have a population of 679,000. Oklahoma City, they're authorized about 1,120 with a population of 620,000. There's smaller departments like Austin. Austin's the 11th largest city in the country with the 10th. Austin has over almost 1,900 sworn. Seattle, with a population of 650,000, has almost 1,400 sworn. I gotta tell you the truth, I sit here, our authorized staffing levels at 1109, and I tell you that, and I always say this for just kind of a sobering moment, but not as an excuse. And I say that so that everybody knows what their police department's capable of. There's things that have happened that I've tried to go above and beyond with regards to social media and using our social media website to really highlight the work that the men and women of this department do for this community. And it's amazing work. I always think of, if I had 1,800 officers in the city of San Jose, they'd have to start ranking us with the safest, largest cities like west of the Milky Way. Because we've done so much for so long for so little that no one does it better than a San Jose police officer. Even now, I will tell you this, and some of this is, I tell you where we've been and where we're going. In January, when I used to give this talk, we had 920 officers. Okay, today I can tell you we have 980 that are net sworn officers. We've done major cases. I always go, we've done a Gang of Thrones case, which was a case where we even had to arrest one of our own, a very very violent Vietnamese gang that was victimizing part of our community, and one of our officers was implicated, and he was arrested in that. We've done burglary operations. We've solved a kidnapping case of an individual that tried to kidnap people near Cambrian last year. We've solved the Blossom Hill shooter who was responsible for 12 different shootings on the Blossom Hill corridor. And then long ago, there was a Scotts Valley bank robbery that the only agency that seemed to catch up to was yours. And unfortunately, the people that were heading to Santa Cruz that day were a little were bummed out because the traffic was brutal, but we ended up catching them. I mean, I will tell you this, I go to major city chief conferences all across the country, and often chiefs of police will ask me, how is it that you do it? How can you do what you do in this city with so few officers? And it's because of the quality of officers that we have. And we're not perfect, and we make mistakes, but we have unbelievable officers here. I will tell you, quite frankly, why you were there, and we're over it now, but it was the Measure B impacts and the fact that we weren't competitive with the police department. So I have to give credit to the mayor and council to finally see that, you know, to rebuild this department, we needed to be competitive again. And we're there. You know, we're concentrating on the positive. You know, last February, we had 7 recruits in our academy. 7 recruits last February in our academy. And today, I can tell you, we have 110 officers in our academy and our training program. That's part of the rebuilding. We're competitive again. Our morale is rising again. And opportunities are what kept people here. You know, San Jose wasn't always the highest paid. It wasn't that. It was the fact that you knew that if you came to San Jose, you could work 3 years and go into Merge. You can work 3 years, Merge is our SWAT team. You can go 3 years, go narcotics. You can be a homicide investigator. You can do, I tell my recruits when I see them in the academy, in 25 years, you can stand in front of an academy class and as the chief of police. And you simply can't say that at other major cities. You simply can't. And what happened so long as we were reducing our staff is our #1 priority was patrol. And so we had to have people in patrol, which then stagnated the promotional process, people moving from place to place to get that experience. And now that's coming back again. You know, we're going to grow, we're going to grow in 5 different ways. We have to keep our people here. We have to continue to recruit. We got to get our people back. A lot of our officers left from 2011, really. We had our layoffs in 2011. People don't remember that. We had layoffs in 2011 for the first time in, I don't know when, for a law enforcement agency to go through layoffs. I mean, we were given a standing aim. There is no question about it. And we got to get some of our people back. We got to bring in laterals. Laterals are police officers from other agencies that, you know, in San Jose, we would get officers from all over the state and all over the country that would want to be police officers in San Jose back in our heyday when I got hired in the early 90s. And we need to get back to that. I will say that within the last 2 years, in 2016 and 2015, I think we had 1 or 2 laterals that came over from cities. And to date this year alone, we have 4 laterals already that have come back this year, and it seems that every week I'm getting an email from an officer that had left the agency that wants to come back. You know, I'm loyal to a fault. God knows many of us had an opportunity to leave, but we decided to stay. But I will say this, that you know what, like, we'll we're talking to a group of religious folks here, so I'll say the old prodigal son sermon or story is one that, you know, come on back. I want you back. I want them back. You know, we'll go ahead and knock it off. They were lost and now they're found. So, you know, I want my officers back, and I will say this, I'll make no bones about it. I know other agencies were looking for our officers where we were really in a bad place. And I have absolutely no problem whatsoever having parades of any place to try to bring our officers back, and we want to do that. You know, one of the things that I tell people all the time is, we didn't get into this mess overnight, all right? And we're not going to get out of it overnight. So although there's a lot of positives that are going on, people, you know, the community and our officers, we need to be patient and grow in the right way. No one wants us to grow more than I do. I remember back in the 90s, when I worked narcotics enforcement, if you had a problem house in your neighborhood, you'd call 971 drug, And within 2 days, if that, you would have a team of officers working that house for the problem. I know that doesn't exist, that doesn't happen right now. But having been here in the 90s and knowing where we need to get back to is something that is very critical to me, because I saw it happen. And I think it's something that we can get back to, and we will get back to. Regardless, again, we're not throwing our hands up in the air. We have a great rapport with our POA and our administration. It's almost like moons are aligned. The relationship that I have with my POA and that I have with my city manager and that the city manager has with council, the mayor, and all of us is something that is very positive, and it helps us get into the right direction. We brought in this company to come and help us how we can deploy more efficiently. And it's interesting because recently, I've been either the chief or the assistant chief for almost 4.5 years. And I was the assistant chief for 3 years. And I will say that I had a lot of meetings about how do we police a city of over 1 million people with a shrinking police department. And I can tell you now, our meetings have changed to, okay, how are we going to get ready for growth? What do we need? I always give the story. I had my academy instructors and supervisors come into a chief staff meeting to talk to me about all the issues that were going to go on in the academy with hiring so many people. And I know those problems were serious to them. I kind of really had to hide my smirk because I'm going, man, that's a great problem to have, and we will figure it out. I will figure it out, because being in those meetings now are so refreshing to try to get prepared for growth and how I, quite frankly, envision moving forward this department and our crime reduction strategies. We're going to grow differently in the past than we were in the past. Our patrol numbers, again, like I said, these things don't happen. We still have about 160 10-hour shifts a week that officers are working on overtime. 160 separate 10-hour shifts a week that your officers are working on overtime. So again, although, and I'll draw it akin to, we were a boat that had a lot of holes that were taking on a lot of water. And I will say those holes have been filled. However, the water's got to go somewhere. That's in the boat. So right now we're bailing that water out slowly but surely so we can get it all out and then begin to rise. We've stabilized, but now we need to get that water out of the boat and continue to grow. Again, we're going to redistrict so we can make our patrol deployment more efficient. We got to rebuild our special operations to handle the quality of life issues that we haven't been able to address, which I recognize because I've been there and I've seen it. Whether it's our metro unit, our traffic unit, our gang investigations, our gang suppression unit, having divisional teams that are specific to your divisions that, we have 4 divisions in the city, and to have divisional teams that could deal with any problem that occurs in that community is huge. And then, as my staff knows, that as soon as I can grab the bodies, my number one priority is to have an undercover burglary unit. I have said this many, many times, 100 burglaries aren't committed by 100 different people. I like to think that, I didn't grow up in this role from an administrative role. Again, I worked narcotics enforcement, I was on the SWAT team, I was a homicide investigator. I got into this job to put the bad guy in jail and to make my community safe. And that's why your officers get into this job, to keep that community safe, solve problems, keep the wolf away from the door, and put the bad guys where they need to go to keep this community safe. I can't say that any clearer. And I will say that, having those proactive units and going out there and doing that work is what continues to keep the city safe, the proactivity. Not officers hiding or sitting behind a target not doing work, because those officers exist, and when we find those officers, we try to light a little fire to ensure that they understand that that is not how this city got as safe as it is with the amount of officers we have. So proactivity in the city is very, very crucial. Community relations, very, very important in light of all the violence that's going on nationally, whether it's from citizens being injured to officers being killed in the line of duty. We have to continue to have dialogues, and neither one of us can take a corner. We need to continue to have dialogue, and I think we've really done that quite a bit in this department. Really, it starts with me, and it ends with the least senior officer working. I mean, I go to community groups, into community group, to say that we're here for you, that we want to work with you, and that we want to get more professional as a police department, which we've done an exceptional job at. But I will say, I can say that and stand up here all day long and talk to you, but if the officer working on a Wednesday morning at 3 doesn't buy into what we're trying to accomplish as a police department, then it really means nothing. You know, I truly believe community policing saves lives. Okay? It saves citizens' lives, it saves officers' lives. You know, one of the things we took on last year is we took on a lot of 21st century policing initiatives. And one of the things that I'm proud of is we took them on not because the Department of Justice or because someone came in and told us to do it. We did it on our own because we felt that it was the right thing to do for our community. You know, whether it's from de-escalation training, you know, and one of the things that I talk about all the time is, what time does this go to?
15.
Okay, I'll try to move quick so we get some questions, I'm sorry. One of the things that we do a lot of times is a lot of the negative things get highlighted about my officers a lot, and none of the positives do. And, you know, last year we had 5 officer-involved shootings. That was last year, and I'll go talk about last year because it's a complete year. You know, this year, and in that time, you know, that's 5 times that officers had to use their weapons. But what wasn't talked about a lot is the fact that we also handled over 5,000 calls where officers were responding to calls that had to do with weapons. So it was one of the reasons why, you know, we do de-escalate. There have been times when the first time that I thought that I wanted to get on social media and try to form a different narrative on our officers really was, we had an incident where officers were dispatched to a call with a man with a knife. And the individual with the knife was saying that if you don't call the police, I'm going to kill somebody. That's usually a call I want to go to. So we respond to that call, and the officers are talking to the individual, and to make a long story short, the individual has a knife, he's being aggressive with the officers, but the officers formulated a plan and ended up using their tasers and diffused the situation, took the individual into custody without ever having to fire the firearm. Did anybody hear about that?